Hello everyone, as people join. Hello everyone, welcome. We'll let a few people join. Hi, Phoebes Corinio. Hey guys, come on in, join, get a drink or something. Sup. I'll wait like a couple of minutes, let a few people join. How's everyone doing? Yes, I'm also super keen. This is mostly just a huge way to procrastinate, I'm pretty sure for most people. It's a huge way for me to procrastinate, but hey. Hope everyone is doing really well. This is going to be just a really chill, no script, no anything, just really chill chat about study, watching while I'm working like a podcast. Yes, I agree. I think that, study while you watch this. Don't study while you watch this. Who am I kidding? It's going to be super chill. We're not going to really do anything too intense. It's just going to be a bit of a chat about what I think is good study, what some of the lecturers think is good study, and obviously I'll take some questions on study and on pretty much anything you guys want to ask. The big thing that I got when I put that sticker out a couple of days, the big other thing that, yes, chill. Chill is like my favorite word because I need to re-emphasize to myself that things need to chill because I've been really busy. The big other thing that people seem to want when I put that sticker out was a Q&A on scaling and marks and stuff, because there are a lot of questions on scaling and marks. I'm going to do that separately because there's no way we can sort of do both. What I might do is in like a week or two, I'm going to do a Q&A where we go over all the scaling and alignment and moderation and how the HSC actually works. So we'll do that separately. Try not to ask too many questions on that today. I guess we'll do that separately, and I'm going to actually pull out my HSC certificate and show you exactly what the marks look like and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so as people keep joining, I guess we'll get started. So basically what I'm going to be talking about today is what exactly study is, what I think you should be doing when you study. But you guys can ask me questions at any time. I'm going to keep an eye on the comments feed here. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll, as I go, try to answer any questions you guys have. Feel free to ask anything you'd like. And I will try and save this whole live Q&A thing so that people can watch it later if they don't get to watch it live. So I think like my favorite question that I got from the when I put that sticker out was what is study? Like when you go into year 12, or especially year 11, like you get into year 12 and year 11 and it's like, what the heck is study anyway? Like you hear the seniors talking about doing study and it's like, what actually is that? Is it homework? Is it assignments? No, it's not. So when I'm talking about today is using your time purely for better understanding your content. So this isn't doing homework, this isn't doing assignments, this is purely time spent getting a better handle on your content, which might help for exams and stuff, but it's not anything that's directly contributing to a homework task that's due necessarily, or to an assignment that's due. This is purely improving your own understanding and your own grasp of the knowledge that's in your syllabus. So I think that's the important thing to understand first off, is that like there is a big difference between doing homework and assignments and doing study. There is a big difference between those two things. And you do need to allocate time separately from homework to study, right? Because if you just allocate time for work and you get all your homework done, chances are you're going to stop and you're going to go eat a bag of Doritos and you're not going to do anything else, or at least that's what I always did. So I find it really important to have a dedicated time, whatever that time may be, to explicitly say, this is my time for doing my study. That is, not doing homework. My homework's already done. I'm just doing the work that I need to do to better understand my syllabus. So how much time should you allocate? I think that really depends on like you as a student and the subjects you do and the other stuff you do. As I think that it really depends on you. Would you consider making notes as study? That's a really good question. Yes, I would, and I'll talk about notes in a little bit, but making notes should probably be a big part of your study early on, and then as you get closer to exams, it should shift a little bit, and I'll explain that a little bit in a minute. So So the person who's asking about study timetables, that's perfect, because that's what I want to talk about first, is exactly how much should you study and how should you plan your time to best get use of your study time and to best to make good time for your study, especially with all other sorts of stuff going on. Like when I was doing year 12, I was balancing 20 hours of part-time work with all of my study, with my school stuff. I went out with my girlfriend, who is now my fiance, every Saturday night. I had a lot of stuff going on. And I think the key to doing a whole bunch of stuff with your time is to be organized, and that's where study timetables come in. So I think the big first thing that people need to do, if you haven't already done it, is to set up a study timetable. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit on how I set up mine, but it's a very personal thing. If you want a specific guide on doing study timetables, sorry, I'm just typing on my laptop to my right here. I wrote a specific guide on coming up with study timetables. So you can search study timetables ATAR notes if you want to read this. How do I swap this camera? There it is. They've changed it. So I wrote a bit of a guide on this. Just search study timetable guide ATAR notes and this will pop up. It's a really in-depth sort of explanation of what I'm about to talk about. But basically the way I set up my study timetable was I set everything else up first. And what I mean by that is like, and I think Chloe, who's just commented, is something that I struggled with, which is why I set up my timetable, is it's like, where do you find the time to study? Because the assignments and stuff tend to pile up, and allocating time for it specifically, where even if your assignments aren't done, you still find the time to study. I think that's really important. So what I did is I literally laid out a grid, and the only paper I have on hand is this random pad that I got from the Parliament of New South Wales, apparently. I've never been there. I don't know how the hell I managed to get one of these. So effectively what I did was I set up a big grid like this, and I sort of allocated my time in a big grid for the week based on what subjects I wanted to work on at that specific time. What I mean by that is, like, obviously your school hours are just for school. This is the most non-aesthetics study timetable you'll ever see. Does this actually read frontways to you? Because it reads backwards for... Like on my screen, it's backwards. Can you read backwards? I have no idea. Anyway, so obviously the school time is gone, but then in the afternoons and stuff, I would allocate my time, and I would actually allocate stuff that wasn't study first, stuff that wasn't negotiable. And a big part of that was part-time work. So for example, a lot of the time my Monday nights were totally gone. I worked at KFC. It is backwards. I'm so sorry. There's no way I'm going to be able to write backwards. So hopefully people can read backwards. My Monday, this is awful design, Instagram. How the hell could you possibly not think to reverse stuff? My Monday nights were usually gone with KFC, which is where I worked. So I slot that in. I generally had another shift on a Thursday or a Friday, so I'd slot that in. And then in my other times, like the other days where I actually had some time to do some work, I would actually slot subject codes. So I would go, right, totally arbitrary, I've got no idea if this is actually what I did, but I would do something like this. So I would say, right, English and physics, math, music. I would do something like this. So how did I do, and that's a great question, how do you do Monday night homework if you had to work at KFC? I got home and I did it, and it sucked, and I'd be up until 1 a.m. some mornings if I had a really late night shift at KFC, or I did it the morning before in homeroom, or I just told my teachers that I had work and I'll do it the next time I can. My teachers liked me. They tended not to care if I didn't do my homework. So I would put subject codes like this. And I think this is a great compromise between like specific study, like I don't like being too restrictive. I don't like saying I'm going to do specifically this thing at specifically this time, because I'm awful at that. Like if I sit down to do a specific thing and I don't feel like doing that thing, I don't do anything. So I prefer to like allocate time for subjects. And then what I have separately is like a list of things I need to do. And in that time, I try and check some stuff off for math or for music or for English or for physics or whatever. So like that was my balance between specific things to do, but still having flexibility. I work awfully with do this at this time. I need to be flexible in what I do. So I allocate subject time and sort of do what I feel like. And what I would do is within those usually 2-hour blocks is I'd try and make sure, again, it was flexible, but I always tried to make half of it homework or whatever the time I needed to get the homework done. And the rest of the time would be study. And so this meant that it would guarantee that like I would get my homework done for math, and then I would work on the study. Or if I had a heap of homework for math, maybe I wouldn't do any math study because I didn't have time. But usually what it would mean is like half an hour to an hour of homework for music or English or physics or whatever, and then the rest of the time for study. It would make sure I'd get my study in for all the different subjects. I kept it super flexible. Like I probably broke my timetable once or twice a week at least, but having the rough guide was really, really helpful. In terms of like how much time to allocate for each subject, which I think Sarah is asking about there, it depends a little bit, but the big golden rule I have, and oh no, I'm not going to write it on the piece of paper because it's going to be backwards. All dramatic effect is gone. The big golden rule I have is like study the most for the things you have trouble with, and this is something that so many people get wrong. It's like people tend to work more on the things they're good at and they enjoy, and that's natural. I get that, and it's something that like I'm guilty of as well. I did it a lot. But the thing is, you really need to be focusing on the things you're bad at, because again, I'm not going to get into scaling and stuff because that's going to be a separate Q&A. I'll do it in like a fortnight's time. The HR tends to reward people who have balanced marks across their subjects, not 3 95s and a 70. Like, you want to keep things balanced, so you want to allocate extra time for the subjects that you're having trouble with, in my opinion. So that's and I guess the big question people ask is like, how many hours a week did you study? For me, it was probably about 20, like including all my homework and assignments and stuff. And how that tended to break down was I tended to do 3 to 4 hours a night on the nights that I could. So say 4, 8, 12 or so. And then I tended to do a huge day on Saturday if I didn't have work at KFC. And then I tended to do like half a day on Sunday. I always took Saturday nights off, and I tended to take Sunday nights off as well, just because that's the way it always ended up working. So about 20 was probably roughly what I was hitting in terms of study hours, but it depends on the person. It depends. I hate telling people how much they should study, because you should study as much as you need to feel confident, right? Yeah, so I guess that's my first bit of advice in terms of getting organized. Is it's whatever form it takes, whether it's like whether it's a to-do list or a timetable or some weird mismatch of the two like I did, or whatever the hell you want to do, just come up with a system. Whether you can break the system every day, I don't care, but a system is better than no system. I think winging it is just asking for trouble, because then you get to the end of a term and you're like, oh shit, no, I didn't do any study for what subject did I miss in this timetable? Legal, I didn't do any study for legal. Whoops. Yeah, I just think a system is better than no system. I'm just going to scroll back and read through a few of the comments. So just to make sure I catch questions. So, like, what are you actually doing when you're studying for these different subjects? I guess I think that's where a lot of the questions are sort of coming in now. What do you actually do in these study times for different subjects? I like to approach study in terms of what you actually have to do in the course, and study for the things that the exam will demand of you and that the course demands of you. So, for example, English, is almost, well, for me at least, was almost purely essays. For you guys, it's a little bit more creative and persuasive now than anything. Still mostly essays, but what was I going with there? It's mostly essays. So for me, my English study was first and foremost making my notes, making my summary notes, and you should do that. That's my other big tip. Do your study notes as you go. Please don't do them all at the end. It's the biggest waste of time in the history of the universe. Do not do it. If you get to trials and you haven't done notes yet, don't make notes. Buy them from somewhere or download them for free off ATAR Notes or do something. Making notes is a huge waste of time. It's like a means to an end. It's a good form of study when you need to make the notes, but there are way better things to be doing with your study time than making notes. So I would make my notes, and then for English, it would be all on memorizing quotes and doing practice paragraphs. That's all I would do for English. For legal, it was more content-based, so I'd be doing more research. I would be doing a few practice paragraphs for legal as well, maybe some practice multiple choice. For legal, it was a little bit more content-heavy, so I spent less time practicing and a bit more time actually learning more content, absorbing more content. In physics, it's heavily just understanding your shit. So I would do a lot of watching YouTube videos and reading my textbook and just generally trying to get my stuff. And essentially, like, your gut is probably the best indicator for what you should be doing with your time. So if you feel like you should be doing something, you should probably be doing that. And it does depend on the subject that you're doing. If you try and study the same for English as you do for math, you're just going to... it's not going to work. You need to have different strategies for different subjects. What I find really, really important for any subject, though, is, of course, practice. Because if you don't practice and don't rehearse using that knowledge in exam situations, then you're not going to do well because you haven't practiced doing it in the exam conditions. Just going to try and scroll through some of the questions here. What is a good time to go to bed to get enough work done but enough sleep? I don't know. I had awful sleep habits in the HSC, like awful sleep habits in the HSC. I'm the last person who should be authoritative on sleep. But I've been told you have to get 7 hours, and my fiance is a speech pathologist who learns about the brain, and she says that by not getting 7 hours sleep, you're increasing your risk of like mental health issues when you're older. So 7 hours sleep, I guess, is a golden rule. But everyone's different, I think. You probably need more when you're an adolescent as well. So how do you know what subjects to add at certain time on your timetable? I think the big thing, and you sort of noticed I did this on my little mock-up one here, is not to have the same sort of subjects next to each other. Like, I would never study for English and then study for legal, because they're both essay heavy. That's just asking for trouble. Exercise different parts of your brain by putting a creative subject next to a math or science-based subject, or English next to a science. If you mix it up, your brain tends to be able to work for a little bit longer. Trying to find study-related questions. This is a good one. How long in advance should you be memorizing content for trials? Effectively, what this sort of regimented study does, and doing it as you go, means that you don't have to start in advance because you've been doing it the entire time. That's the whole point of this, right? Like, the big reason that people screw up their trials is because they leave the studying too late and they just don't have the time to memorize everything. Because, like, let's think about it this way. Especially for the humanities, like, there's nothing difficult about the content itself, right? Like, you learn the business studies, like, 4 segments, you learn the legal studies cases. There's nothing difficult about the content, like, in most cases. It's just remembering it all. And so if you do it as you go, it's a whole lot easier. And that's why I recommend making this time to make your notes as you go and to rehearse and learn the content as you go, rather than trying to cram it all in at the end. So I've talked a little bit about how I study for legal. So for studying, would you revise what you learned in class or study for the topic which will be taught the next lesson? I tended to just stick with my class personally, but like, I know a lot of people who study ahead. Those who are doing the Shoot Smart program, for example, study ahead of their classes because I teach faster than most classes, for example. Like, it just depends on the person, but personally in Year 12, I tended to just stick with the class just because there was no need to move ahead. I had good teachers. They were moving at a pace I liked. That's a good one. How do you balance and plan out major works? Good. So subjects like music with major works, are real tough because, like, you have study to get your concepts across, you have your homework, and then you have a major work on top of all of that. I had like a dedicated weekly slot for working on my major works. I think from memory it was like Saturday morning for some reason, but I always like had a dedicated time. 8 Notes coffee cup, not available anywhere. I had a dedicated time for working on the major works, and just like the study, it's just to avoid that last minute cram of trying to get your entire society and culture pip done in the last week before it's due. I had a little bit of a problem with this myself. Like, I had to cram hardcore to get my 2 music compositions done. It happens, but by having that weekly slot, I wasn't as behind as I could be. So I think balancing and planning out major works is just about allocating a time every week to work on them, and just keeping on top of where you should be, and just staying on top of things, because as soon as you forget about them, that's when they get on top of you. Studying counts as practice papers. Practice papers are a form of study, and they're the best form of study. You do them. Thank you for the 4-unit English. Thank you for Muji Studies. I appreciate your tip. I've already answered that. How many hours should we spend studying? How do you motivate yourself to study? Motivating yourself to study is a real bitch. Like, I am awful at this. I'll just get into a mood that, like, I cannot possibly do any work. Like today, I had huge plans to get a whole bunch of work started on my thesis that I'm doing this year as the last year in my uni degree, and I had such good plans, and then I got into a mood and I ended up like watching Halo cutscenes for an hour and a half. Why? I have no idea. The YouTube algorithm serves me a video full of Halo cutscenes, and so I watched a series of Halo cutscenes while really doing nothing at all, tidying my desk and pretending to look busy. It happens. It sucks, and it happens, and I get it. I think the important thing to keeping motivated when you study is just doing it in small chunks and doing it in manageable chunks. Like having these slots, instead of just going, well, I'm going to have to work and I don't really know when I'm going to finish. Having these slots makes it manageable. I will work on math for an hour, and then I will go and eat a box of chocolates or something, right? You can tell I was rewarding myself with food a whole lot. That's why I put 7 kilos on in my HSC year. If you have a small manageable chunk of time and a specific reward that you'll get at the end of it, and I talk about this a little bit in some of the guides I've written on AM, it's like, I'm going to do this amount of work for half an hour, and then I'm going to take a walk for 10 minutes as a reward. Or I'm going to do this past paper for an hour, and then I'm going to play Xbox for half an hour, or whatever the case may be. Rewarding yourself for small manageable chunks of time is a great way to stay motivated. Honestly, yeah, people commenting on sleep schedule, I'm also going to die. I'm not going to die, but like my sleep schedule is awful, like really, really bad. My New Year's resolution was to get minimum 7 hours sleep a night. I've been really good at that so far, but yeah, my sleep schedule last year was abysmal. I was lucky to get 5 a night. It was just awful. If you have an exam the next day, that's obviously a little bit different. Like if you've got an exam the next day, focus on that exam. And that's why, like when I talked about this timetable, I mentioned that I broke the timetable a lot. I did. I broke the rules on this thing like once or twice a week. And you should be flexible like that. Where to study? That's a good one. I tended to try and mix it up. So when I was studying like for the HSC, I studied at my awesome desk here that is very, very conducive of productivity, not because it's in close proximity to literally anything else. Sorry. But I did try to mix it up, and this helped a lot when I was doing my exam study for trials in the HSC. Like, I'd go to the library and study with my fiance, which was a great change of scenery. We'd study for a couple of hours, then go get lunch, and then study some more. So that was good. I would like literally just go and sit out in the lounge room instead of sitting at my desk if I needed a change of pace. Essentially anywhere where you can avoid like distractions is good, but at the same time, you don't have to be anywhere totally, isolated in a box, because you shouldn't be you should be able to go and take a walk for 5 minutes after half an hour of work. It's not a big deal. Trials go towards your internal assessment mark. They do. I have 3 major works. You are a trooper. Well done on enlisting for 3 major works. That's intense. Do exactly what I did, except I'd allocate a day, maybe Saturday or 2 weeknights or something, and just have, major work 1, major work 2, major work 3. Because then one doesn't overwrite the others, and like you guarantee that you'll work on all of them in fairly equal amounts. And again, if you're just constantly working on them week by week, then you will hopefully not have that big cram at the finish. How do you manage if a teacher moves too slow? I'm just answering questions now, but there's a lot of them, so this is fine. How do you manage if a teacher moves too slow? Tell them they're moving too slowly for you. Say, hey, I'm really I feel like I could be moving faster. Again, you don't have anything to worry about. Is like, what's great, ask your teacher for a plan of their year, like start to finish, to prove maybe even just as comfort for you that they'll finish in time. And if they're not, raise the concern that like, hey, I've noticed that we're only halfway through the course and the year 12 finishes next week. What are we going to do? Raise it earlier than that, obviously. Raise it to them, and then if they're not willing to speed it up, or if you still don't feel like you're being looked after, then feel free to read ahead and just ask the teacher for some extra resources. There's no harm in doing something twice if you want to work ahead and then do it again in class. But I think communicating with your teachers is something that students don't tend to do. Your teachers are human beings. They want to help you. Talk to them and they will hopefully help you as much as they can. Will this be a tip to motivation of study? HSC is a one-time thing, unless if you repeat, make the most of it. Yeah, look, I agree with that mindset. Like, if you're the HSC is something you're only going to have to do once. And like, when I was doing my HSC, I had no idea what I wanted to do at uni even. So when people say, oh, use your uni degree to motivate you, I didn't have that because I had no idea what I wanted to do. What motivated me was like, not a fear, but like, what motivated me was the worry of like, what if I wanted to eventually do something, like I was sort of interested in medicine. I'm very glad I didn't do it. Medicine is just not for me. What if I was interested in law or medicine or something with a really high cutoff and I didn't have the ATAR to do it? That like scared me. Not like actually in a way that like I'm scared of, what am I scared of? Spiders? I'm not that scared of spiders. Anyway, it didn't actually scare me, but it was like, for me, that was something I would hate to go, like, you know, I would really hate to have not put in all the effort and then be 0.5 off something I really wanted to get into. That personally for me is what motivated me to keep going. But like, it didn't scare me that much either, because of like, you can always get to the uni degree you want to get to. So I was comfortable and I was fine, but it sort of, I really wanted to motivate myself. What is the best way to get over a bad mark in a HSC assessment? Just know that it's going to be fine. Like, I barely passed my MX1 half yearly and came second last in the cohort, and by the end I still came first and got a band D4, and now I'm lecturing MX1 for ATAR notes. Like, you'll be fine. And that's really the only thing I can say about that, is that it will be fine. And the other thing I'd say is that use it to motivate you to improve and to learn about where you can improve. The big thing that like I hate is like, because I do a bit of private tutoring, and I'll say to my students, oh, how did you go like in your assessment task? And they might say, oh, you know, I'm not too happy with it, I got this mark. And I say, okay, cool, so have you looked through it? And they say, no, I don't want to look at it. I hate that. It sucks. It's like not the good mindset to have at all. Look at the assessment tasks, even more so when you aren't happy with the result. Figure out what your teacher says went wrong and figure out some ways you can fix it. Like, you have way more to gain from a bad assessment task than a good one. Like, if you get a good assessment task and you get no feedback, then you can't improve. And so you're really not gaining anything from that learning experience. If you have a bad task and you learn from it, you gain a lot, and that's way better for you in the long run anyway. What job do you plan to get? I don't know. We'll see what I get. And also, if the teachers is too slow, should you move ahead? Yeah, I already sort of talked about that. How do you manage friendships and relationships during Year 12? Oh God, this I love this question. I think you might have asked this in the question sticker too. I love this question. And the way I answer it is really simple. If I had ditched my focus on romantic relationships. If I ditched my romantic relationship in Year 12, I would not be engaged right now, because like I'm with the woman that I was with from Year 8 onwards. Like, don't ditch your boyfriends and girlfriends in the HSC. It's the worst idea ever. Like, in a stressful time like the HSC, stressful times in your life, as if you're going to push the people away, or like, you know, not foster the connections that give you support and give you meaning in your life. Like, that is not the right way to look at the Year 12 experience at all. If anything, like, make more time for them and make more time to relax with them and spend time with them. Like, the big thing to keep in mind is that be aware of people who aren't recognizing and are supportive of this. If you have people, or like, be it family members or romantic partners or whatever, who aren't respectful of your commitments for the HSC, that's when you've got a bit of a problem and you need to talk to them about it. But like, my fiance and I did the HSC together, so if anything, she motivated me to study more, because I would text her and be like, hey, want to FaceTime? And she'd be like, no, I'm studying, Jamon, you should be doing the exact same thing. And then I had to study because she was busy and I had nothing else to do. So that was great. Would you recommend snack studying? Is that the thing where like you give yourself a little snack after every 10 minutes or every passage or something? I'm fully supportive of anything that involves the ingestion of food. In physics, are you meant to memorize your notes while you make them? Yeah, look, so while you're making your notes, guys, like, so let me go into a bit more about how I've used study notes. This is insane hand gestures here. Holy crap. I'm out of water too. I look at study notes like they're an exercise, but they're mainly a means to an end. So when you're doing study notes, it is a way to absorb the content and it is a way to learn, but it's mainly for you to then have a reference point to do other forms of study later. So making your notes is a way to memorize your content, but it shouldn't be the only way you memorize your content. There are I consider notes to be what I call passive study. So what I mean by passive study is it's you're sort of regurgitating the knowledge or copying the knowledge and not actually using it or rehearsing it or applying it. So in that context, I sort of go, well, notes are good, but they're not great. There are better forms of what I call active study. The big one is practice papers, of course, but there are also things like syllabus brainstorms. I loved this for legal and physics and the more content-heavy stuff. Jot a syllabus dot point down or a syllabus heading and literally brainstorm everything you can think of under that dot point. Then go to your notes, figure out what's missing, and fill in the blanks with a different color pen and sort of do a bit more study on the areas you missed. Syllabus brainstorms are great, as well as things like practice paragraphs, just having discussions, or having a bit of a group study session with a mate and having them go, hey, explain this theory in physics to me, or hey, explain photosynthesis to me for biology. I have no idea if you actually learn about photosynthesis or not, but you get the idea. You've got to do these active forms of study as well. If you're just using notes to memorize, it's not going to be enough. So can you still do past papers for some of... This is a good one. So how do you deal with the new syllabus courses? So English, the sciences, the histories, all have new syllabi? Syllabuses, something. The new courses do cause a bit of they're a bit of a trouble because you don't have the past paper resources as easily as some other past students have. What I'd recommend for that is it's important to find someone who knows what they're talking about to filter out the stuff that you can use, be that a private tutor or your teacher or some website like ATAR Notes or something where they can filter through the content for you and give you the stuff that's still relevant. And other than that, it's just about relying on stuff besides past papers. You can very easily make your own practice paper out of just turning each syllabus dot point into a question, which is also something I did a lot. You don't need to have a past paper written for you. It's nice to have them, but you can do almost as well with just turn every syllabus dot point into a question and use that. My school is keeping us at school after trials, which only gives me 2 full weeks to study for the HSC. How can I manage studying with still going to school? I think most schools do that, don't they? I'm pretty sure most schools have you back after trials. Do any schools ditch right after trials? That seems strange. So I did this. I think what's really important, guys, too, is that after big assessment tasks, be it half-yearlies, trials, whatever, is to have a break. And I think that's really important. It's really, really important to keep your batteries recharged. Having a bit of a break is important. So make sure you have that after trials. In terms of still going to school, I would hope that if you're still going to school, you're doing the study at school as well. So just chat to your teachers, make sure that your time in class is actually being used for stuff that's useful, but don't consider the school time lost time. It's probably study time as well, so don't treat it like empty time. It's probably not. One bad grade in English ruin your chance of getting a good ATAR? No, it doesn't. I'm going to do a scaling and marks Q&A in 2 weeks or so we'll chat more then. Let's see, how do you make the most of your study breaks? As I said, probably very unhealthily, ate food. But I think it's really important to get very big separation between your schoolwork and you. So a break isn't reading your notes instead of writing a practice paper. That's not a break. A break is literally walking away from your desk and watching TV for half an hour, or going for a walk, or doing whatever you want to do. The more separation, the better, because half breaks don't really do anything. And there's a whole lot of research to back that up too. He's literally you. Oh no. Can you bounce back from failed assessments? Yes, I did. I didn't fail. I got 52%, came second last in my cohort. I still did fine. Again, we'll talk more about marks in 2 weeks when we do a scaling Q&A. Why is SOR2 so hard to get a band 6? I can explain that in the scaling Q&A. We're clearly at the bit where I was talking about my fiance. Wow, I'm 10 minutes behind. I'm gonna have to try and move more quickly. Yep. Cool. So I work and I'm struggling to balance that with the HSC. How do I overcome this? I'm too new to the job to ask for less shifts, but I feel like it's low-key taking over. This is a big thing that happens to a lot of people. So first of all, it doesn't matter how new you are in a job, you are totally entitled, especially if you're a casual, to go to your boss and say, yo, you're giving me too many shifts. That's the whole point of casual employment. And I did this. So I went to my boss and said, hey, I did 20 hours a week in the HSC. I was doing more probably in year 10 and early year 11. And I went to my boss and just said, I need to shift my priorities now. You need to give me less shifts. They're usually fine with that. Don't treat it like your work is what speaks for your quality as an employee, not how many hours you work. It's the quality of work you do when you're there. So have a nice open chat with your boss. I'm sure they'll be open to it. The big thing is, like, if you are organized and make time for the work and your study around it, then you will be fine. The big problem is when you have work, and literally no time for study. But organization is key. During the summer holidays, I did a lot of maths homework, and now I'm 2.5 chapters ahead. Go you. In terms of assessment, should I stop and go with my class's pace, or should I continue working? Whatever works for you. If you find class boring and it's too easy to just stick with them, then keep going. Why not? I absorb my notes through osmosis. I love it. Are you a big fan of Quizlet? I never used Quizlet. In theory, it's the best thing ever, but I just never, found the time or the effort to do it. What I did do a lot, which I can't find my HSC version anymore, but I do have uni version, I showed this at some of my lectures, is I did do palm cards, which I guess Quizlet is like the electronic version of palm cards, but I just putting my math formulas in and my physics formulas in just too difficult, so I just ended up handwriting stuff. This is a uni set, so it's just a big thing for study for content-based courses is jargon, so like key terms and bits of information on the back. Again, this is, if you're into electrical engineering, this is what awaits you. Ha 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 ha. So palm cards and stuff are cool. Quizlet I just never personally got into. Yes, I will definitely try and keep this live on my story. However, I've attempted this twice. The first time I attempted it, Instagram has a hard 1 hour limit on lives, apparently. At least they did when I tried it the first time. And so my live got deleted automatically after the 1 hour point, so that sucked. The second time I tried it, I set a timer for 55 minutes, which is what I've done on my laptop over here. We've got like 20 minutes left. And I tried to save it, and then the internet sort of carked itself and I lost it. Third time is the charm. Hopefully, I definitely plan to have it saved. Love the brainstorm. Brainstorm is life. Honestly, do it. Is the volume of a rectangular prism L times B times H? No, it's pi r squared times the square root of 1,000,000 plus the mass of the sun. It may be a stupid question, but how do you do practice paragraphs? Great question. I would literally I'm not going to write one. Why am I grabbing paper? I'm not going to do that. I would literally pick any random topic to write about. So if for legal, it might be, I've just come up with something like, explain the benefits of judicial discretion in sentencing offenders or something. For English, it might just be a paragraph on the chapter that we'd analysed in class that day or whatever. Literally anything, because writing anything is better than writing nothing. The science subjects just released an 89-page practice questions. Did they really? Sweet. I'm going to go check that out. Everyone should go check that out. This person, everyone look at the comments section. Apparently NISA has just released like additional HSC questions. They were additional sample HSC questions. I think I heard, we were talking with NISA and I think that they said they were going to do this. We weren't sure on their timeline. So this is good. I'm very glad that they've done that. Thank you, NISA. My trials are at the end of term 2. That's early. Not really. How do you recommend I study? As I'm still at school and will have other things to do like homework. Exactly. School exchange. That's awesome. Don't stress about school exchange taking time away from study. School exchange is like more useful to you long term anyway. That's another thing I want to emphasize. Like, don't give up your part-time jobs. Don't give up, you're far better off having 16 hours to study instead of 20 or whatever your golden number is, and keeping part-time jobs and extracurriculars and stuff like that. Because guess what's way more useful on your CV when you graduate and when you're going for scholarships and stuff or whatever you happen to be doing with your life? Guess what's way more useful than your ATAR? Extracurriculars and work experience. Your ATAR is fine, but don't want to discredit people who get really good ATARs because of course they've done amazing work, but hundreds and thousands of people get a 90 plus ATAR. Very few of those are also, have got the work experience and have the extracurriculars and stuff like that. That makes you stand out more. Keep things into perspective. I got a 99.8, which I was totally not expecting and I was really, really happy with. It was the highest ATAR my school had ever gotten up to that point because my school was totally unknown. It was ranked 300s. We weren't expecting an ATAR that high. So I was really, really happy. And then that school then churned out Emily, our English lecturer, who got another ATAR 0.05 higher than mine. My school had a really good couple of years. We have trials next term and I'm already stressed. Same. Is an extra 2 units actually useful? I'll talk more about that in a scaling Q&A. I'll probably do that in a week or two. Is typing or handwriting notes a more effective form of note-taking? I typed. Every form of research I find tells me that writing is better for actually memorizing stuff. Like, every bit of research out there says for pure memorization, like if you're literally trying to memorize something by writing notes, handwriting is better. However, writing notes is not the way you should be memorizing and learning your content. I've talked about this already, this idea of active versus passive study. In terms of the other form, like goal or objective of writing notes, it's to have a set of notes or a one-stop reference point so you can ditch your textbooks and just focus on one specific source of truth. In terms of having a really nice resource to look at when you study for the HSC instead of 20 different booklets, I find typed better. So personal preference, all the research is against me, but I still try and type my notes wherever I can. Now that I'm at uni, it's just too hard to write some of these formulas in a typed version, so I handwrite them now. Well, technically I write them, but on an iPad Pro. So, yeah. There is hope for us. Did you go to a public school? No, I went to a Catholic school, but it's definitely not one known for its academic excellence. I hope none of my teachers are watching because I love my teachers. I had amazing teachers. They were fantastic. It's just not a school that's known for its academic success. Could you do the scaling live earlier, please? Much needed. Your marks aren't going to be moderated until November, so it doesn't really it's no big deal. I'll try and do it in the next 2 weeks. I promise. I don't want to try and cram that into study questions today. Can you quickly explain syllabus brainstorming? Yeah, cool. So all I said is you write your syllabus dot point. Let me pick, what subject haven't I talked much about? Let's do legal. What's a syllabus dot point for legal? I lectured legal once in 2016 and I've not lectured it since. I've got no idea what I'm doing. I state ranked it. How the hell am I not knowing what a syllabus dot point is? I don't know. Defenses. Sure, defenses. So I put a syllabus dot point at the top of the page, defenses. I don't know what the actual wording is, but the defenses, whatever. 8:42, still going okay on time. And I would literally just dot point as many things as I could remember about that dot point, sorry it's backwards, below the heading. Then when I was done, I'd go back to my notes that I'd already made on this topic or whatever. I just got permanent marker on my keyboard. God damn it. I would go back to my notes and figure out what I'd missed. I'd put that in a different color, and those would sort of be where I'd focus my energy for that study session. So I'd go, okay, I'd got everything, but I really didn't remember any of this stuff on defenses to sexual assault or something. So I would study up on that, make some extra notes on that, and yeah, that would be my target area. I feel really inspired. I'm very glad you do. Whereabouts in Sydney do you live? Within a 100-kilometre radius. I'm from Western Sydney. I'm very, very far out west. What should your study space look like? I can show you mine, I guess. It's changed a fair bit from when I did the HSC. However, I can show it to you. Is there anything on this table that gives away anything I don't want to give away? No. Okay, great. So, this is my study space. My computer screens currently have white on them because they are my lighting in this Q&A. Go me for technological innovation. I have a laptop as well. I generally did my work in this little section, which currently just has a whole bunch of random nothingness on it. And then I had this bookshelf, which is currently filled with ATAR notes guides, a few math resources that I still use. I have a competitor's math guide. I'm such a bad person. So yeah, and a few uni textbooks and stuff like that. Nothing special. It's not a huge deal. Well, anyway, not a big deal at all. Where are we? Right now I'm only doing a 9-hour shift every fortnight. That's not much at all. But if I do more shifts, I have a very good chance of becoming a manager by the end of the year. Yes, you should definitely try that. If you want to be a manager and if you think you can handle it in terms of your study schedule, absolutely try that. And tell me where you're a manager so I can come and get good food. I really shouldn't assume that's a food shop. I will come and get free stuff from you wherever you're managing. Thank you, sir. How should your study space look? I already looked at that. What do you do if teachers are skimming over whole sections quickly? Again, talk to them, don't say that they're skimming over stuff, but communicate with them and say, hey, we've done this dot point. I really don't feel confident in this dot point. Could you go over it a bit more for the class or whatever? Talk to your teachers. They are more than happy to help in 99% of cases. How do you effectively do group study? So group study is an interesting one. I think it is dependent on where you personally sit. I'm going to ditch this second light source because it's just creating shadow. There we go. So it's what was I talking about? Group study, if you're confident in the course, you tend to become a teacher and teaching the others in your group. And if you're less confident, you tend to be a learner. Like, both of those are great roles to play because it benefits both people. If you're learning stuff, that's obviously great. And if you're teaching it, that's just as good, if not better, because you remember like 90% of what you teach. So I tend to just fall into when I would do it with my fiance or even with other people, we would sort of take turns explaining concepts to each other, maybe have some like verbal essay debates in legal, like literally talk through what our arguments would be. But yeah, just make it a collaborative thing. It's supposed to be more chill than just doing past papers. It's supposed to break the routine a little bit. It's a good thing. Recommended textbooks for math. In HSC I had this really old one that was written in like 1988, which I liked and I forget the name of. Now for my personal use, I've got all the ATAR Notes maths things, which I highly recommend. I've got this random textbook that I bought from the library for 50 cents. 50 cents. This is a really good textbook, like for quick summaries of content and a few questions to go with it. I like it for that reason. And when I was in the HSC, I also bought the Excel books. And even though I work for ATAR Notes and ATAR Notes sells products, it would be totally wrong of me to assume that you don't know there are other products out there. Go to a Dimmix, flick through all the stuff that's there. ATAR Notes books are now in Dimmix. Hoorah! Was the coolest, trippiest thing ever to walk into a Dimmix and see my name on a book there, by the way. Coolest thing ever. Go to a Dimmix and flick through some. Like, the ATAR Notes topic tests are great for topic-based revision. If you want whole practice papers, it's not something the ATAR Notes books do. Some of the Excel products do that better. Buy what you think is best for you. By no means, and again, I work for ATAR Notes, but it would be incorrect of me to just say only buy the ATAR Notes ones. That's just totally, no. That's not nice. When you're writing notes, should I be updating them weekly or termly? Definitely weekly, at the minimum. So I said this near the start of the Q&A. How long have I got left? 10 minutes. Near the start of the Q&A, I said, write your notes as often as possible. Weekly is a minimum, or if not that, daily. I tried to squeeze my note writing into these every other day study sessions or so, but other than that, I was always writing notes as I went. Almost always. I did screw up once or twice. Write them as you go, as much as possible, so definitely weekly. If you listen to music while studying, does anything you study actually go in your head? Yeah, I read some research on this that says there's a certain beats per minute that's good for retention of information, and it's roughly equivalent to listening to classical music. Most classical music. Listen to music. I don't think it matters. As long as you're not literally not paying attention to your notes and you're screaming all the lyrics, it shouldn't matter, I don't imagine. Then maybe if you listen to that later, you'll remember it via oral osmosis or something. Ooh. Will you be maybe updating your AN study guides in color ink? So the AN study guides are an interesting one because to offer you a really small glimpse into AN business, we don't make a whole lot of money off the study guides, and anything we do make gets funneled straight back into the website and into making lectures happen and all that sort of good stuff. Color ink is 20 times more expensive than black ink, and it doesn't add a whole lot to the notes in most cases. We did print some of the ancient notes in color once because we thought that it needed it. But yeah, it's not, I don't think it's on the immediate to-do list, but it may be in the future. I wish ATAR Notes had stuff on IPT. I wish we had stuff on everything. Honestly, I really do. We rely on donations for a lot of our resources, so if you appreciate what we're doing, donate your notes to ATAR Notes. We would love you for it forever. I want notes on everything. There's a whole bunch of stuff I want more resources on, but we can only do what people help us deliver in terms of the note downloads. And in terms of lectures, we can only offer so many lectures, and if we offer one for IPT, that means taking one away from another subject. So we've got to balance these things carefully. tips for mad procrastination. Yeah, I've gone through this a bit already, and again, the live, I'm going to try and save the live. I'm going to try my best, I promise. Again, I talked, like, it glitched last time I tried this, but I will try. So procrastination is a big one. I think the big mistake people make when they try and study, and like when they're trying to not procrastinate, is that they try and sit there for 3 hours and do work. I can't sit there for 3 hours and do work. Like, if I tried to sit still for 3 hours and not do anything except study now, I would literally give up after 5 minutes. I can't do that. In the HSC, I sort of could. I cannot do that anymore. So I just work until I feel like I need a break, and then I take a 5-minute stroll, and then I come back. A big part of procrastination is working with your own attention span and your own capabilities as a student. If you try and push yourself like more than what you can do, of course you're going to procrastinate. But if you work in small, manageable chunks, that can make things easier. Small, manageable chunks is a good thing. A few subject-specific things that I'll have to skip because I want to make sure I get to all the questions and summarize some of the stuff I've talked about. I will give a big recap for good study habits. I'm so glad you like the guides. I will definitely make sure that the authors of those books know. Where would you find language notes? I don't know. I'm sure, wander down to Dimmicks. I'm sure there'll be something there. So the fact that so many people want languages is interesting because Victoria, like our friends down in VCE, I don't know if Nick from ATAR Notes VCE is watching. Hello, Nick, if you are watching. In Victoria, they have languages other than English notes, which is a more general set of notes on like learning a language and studying for a language. No specific phrases or content, but like, more general study tips for languages. That could be something we do in the future. We'll have to see. Okay, cool. I've caught up on all the questions. So what I've talked about in this stream so far is basically when to study, some stuff you can do when you study. What I've not sort of talked about is like how to ramp it up when you're preparing for an exam, which I've sort of alluded to. I want to talk about that just for 2 minutes before we start finishing things up. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, pop them down and I will definitely get to them before I finish up. So in terms of exams, how things should change when you're getting ready for an exam versus just regular study. So this stuff like this, like, again, to summarize literally everything I've said, is put segmented sections for your subjects, and then make sure that in that time, once you've finished your homework, you're doing your study as you go. And I've sort of talked through some of the stuff I did for different subjects, and there's a whole bunch of guides on ATAR Notes on how to study for the different subjects. But how does it change when you get close to an exam? If you follow this method, you will have all of your notes done before, like, as you go. There will be no notes to write. So that whole step is skipped, and I think that's really important. What you do when you get close to an exam is just shift everything to practice papers or practice assessments or mock practice. However you can simulate the exam style questions is what you should do. What is important, and the big thing people screw up when they study, is not simulating exam conditions. So like what I mean by that is they'll do, say, they'll pull out our math topic tests, just as it's literally the first topic test that I can find. They'll do the section on trig functions or whatever the case may be, but they're not timing it. Like, they'll go, okay, I'm going to do this test, I'm going to mark it, and that's great. Like, well, some people don't mark it, and that's another huge mistake. Please mark your practice or get it marked by a teacher. But then when they do it, they don't time it. And so all the benefit that you would get by doing exam style practice is just totally evaporated. And so you need to make sure that you actually simulate the exam conditions by doing your tests under time. So, and that's even more important in the lead up to exams. So what I recommend you do in the lead up to exams is make dedicated slots to do 1 hour segments of practice. Even if you can't do a full 3 hour exam, do 1 hour segments of it, and then allocate half an hour after that practice to mark it and see when you went wrong. But the key is to do it under exam conditions in the first instance. That's so important. And besides that, in the night before an exam, keep it chill, read some notes, and good luck. And to the person who has an exam tomorrow, good luck for you. But yeah, don't stress too much about exams. As I sort of have mentioned, and that I'll talk about more in a scaling Q&A, it's not a big deal. You can fail a couple of exams and still get a great ATAR. It's not a huge deal at all. Okay, so if you have any last minute questions, feel free to shove them below and I'll get to them as we finish up. We've got like another 5 minutes or so. So yeah. How come there are no music tutors? It's just a logistics thing. Like, I got into On-Call for Music 1. I didn't do Music 2, but for Music 1 I could definitely tutor it, but it's just about the logistics of like, we've only got so many lecture rooms and we need to make sure we can put on a good series for the most amount of people, and that means we can't do every subject. I'd love to get to music one day. We'll have to see how we go. How important is it to have a study schedule? I talked about that. I guess like literally 3-sentence summary of everything I've talked about. Have a schedule, whatever it looks like, have a schedule. And in those times, write your notes as you go. And then once those are done, do more active forms of study. And if you really understand the difference between active and passive study, then that will be a huge advantage for you heading into your exam periods. You've watched a 1 hour live instead of studying for math. I totally, such good use of time. Okay, cool. And I guess for everyone who's stuck around this long, I guess I can let you in on the little secret that we're holding lectures soon. Let me pull up dates. So no, maybe I won't, because I think things might still be subject to change. But yes, at this stage, the plan is that we will be holding lectures in the upcoming school holidays, which we've never held them in this holidays before. So I think that's really, really exciting. So more details coming soon. But yes, the lectures are, to my understanding, don't hold me to verbal contract, but yes, the lectures are coming back, which is really cool. Lectures, yeehaw, 100%. If you guys want to do anything to help us, please, when we do announce lectures, spread the word as far and as wide as you can, because, again, lectures are free. That's why I'm sitting at my desk instead of, at some fancy studio doing these lives. We so appreciate every little bit of help that we can get when it comes to promoting these things, because, they're free and we think they're really cool. So help us out when you see those sorts of information popping up. So I'm going to finish up so I can make sure I can save this live. So hopefully this helped sort of give you a perspective on study and really how you should be allocating your time, and the difference between different forms of study. Again, for specific subjects, I recommend checking out guides on the forums. And if you want a more in-depth look at some of the stuff I've talked about today, we sell something called the HSC Survival Guide on the ATAR Notes shop. It's $20 and it goes through a whole bunch of stuff I talked about today, as well as more generic stuff like self-care and study and time management and dealing with results and all sorts of good stuff. I half wrote it and I think it's really cool. So if you're at all interested, $20, ATAR Notes shop, feel free to go check it out. But no pressure. So yeah, I really hope you guys got something out of this live. I'll definitely try and save it, fingers crossed. Oh, you're in Japan. You'll get the slides to be online, as they always are, so it's all good. And then followed by someone wishing they were in Japan. Is there something for uni students? Absolutely. So ATAR Notes is definitely for uni students too. We've just started a university notes section. There are heaps of university guides on the site. Google University ATAR Notes and see what comes up. I bet there'll be a lot. Cool. We don't do lectures for uni at this stage though, no. I'm going to finish it up there. I hope you guys learnt something from this Q&A, or if not, hopefully you enjoyed procrastinating with me. I'm going to go back to do something else for productive now, hopefully. Yeah, no, who am I kidding? I'm not going to do anything else tonight. Of course I'm not. I know, I agree. If this live doesn't save, I'm going to be very frustrated. So I'm going to get off now, so I've still got the 2 minutes before it decides to spontaneously delete itself. Have a really, really great night, guys. And I will let you... Oh, they've put in... Oh, wow. They've actually put in a timer now. So, literally, as I was saying, it's literally got a timer up the top now that says 2 minutes left. It did not do that when I had my live deleted the first time. Instagram deserves props for actually having a good UX for once. Go Instagram. Alright guys, have a great night. I will chat to you and I'll announce the details of the next Q&A when it happens. Thank you for supporting ATAR Notes. Thank you for supporting everything we do. And if you need anything at all, feel free to shoot us a message. Have a great night. Enjoy your week. Good luck to the person who has a math exam tomorrow. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Oh, this is the awkward pause between me waving bye and me actually finishing it properly. If I hit end, does it save? I think it does. Okay, bye again. Bye.